Support for Flying Valiant builds is brought to you by 1st and 64th Customs on YouTube, where no diecast is safe. Video Geek Productions, all business, all geek. Brian Smith YouTube channel, clever schemes for fun and profit. A generous grant from the Jonathan Vonesh Foundation, and from support from viewers like you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Alright, Monster Jam Challenge. As long as I don't pick anything too difficult, it should be a breeze. Good luck. Hey there folks, Chuck here, and well, that last build was a lot of fun, but recreating an actual vehicle is quite mentally taxing, and I didn't even get to thinking about how many decals there are on Mr. Banna's race car. There are a lot of them, and that was a lot of designing and a lot of shaping and a lot of looking at reference photos, and well, it was ultimately something I was proud of and ended up selling right away. Actually, that was really amazing. So thank you, Evan, for purchasing the beast. Yeah, that one took a lot out of me. So luckily for me, Jamie at Devil's Details Diecast had a challenge that butted right up against the 3 Blind Mice challenge that was completely different from that. And while I did end up getting this video out late, I was able to get the photos off in time for the Invitational. So I did get to participate, and that was really awesome. And this one was a lot of fun. It was nice to go from trying to recreate something that is almost exacting in trying to copy something that already exists to something that never existed, nor should it. Because this thing is wild, and I love the idea of this challenge and taking something that was never supposed to be a monster truck and making it one. But we'll get into all that in the breakdown. This is going to be a quicker one. Just sit back, relax, and have fun with me as I make something up as I go. The rules were pretty simple. Any non-monster truck body, and no pre-existing monster truck chassis. And my own personal challenge for this was to 3D print the parts to make the monster truck. And finally, I wanted to make it muddy. Like, really lay it on. Like, this is fresh off a Monster Jam. Okay, ready? Punch that subscribe button. Let's boogie. Breakdown was pretty straightforward, just a classic 4-piece Hot Wheels disassembly with a plastic base. Oh yeah, and these 3D pieces. Because here's where I got really lucky. As it turns out, someone named Stardemos? Anyway, they're from Portugal. And they made some pretty cool Gaslands things, including, as fate would have it, a chassis to turn a Honda City Turbo into a monster truck. And it came with wheels. Oh, that was another rule, is I had to use the Greenlight monster truck wheels, which fortunately I already had a set of. I printed it along with some other parts and got to work. Even though it was going to be muddy, I still dipped the windshield in pledge just because I like that look where the shine comes through. It really does add a lot to the glass. The thing I noticed, I tried to look at very few reference photos on this just because I wanted to do a palette cleanser on this one versus the last one, which was following a bunch of pre-existing photos and demo images. And one of the few things I did look up was, you know, what's chrome and what's not. And interestingly, there's almost no chrome on this car. Everything was like black rubber. So it was fun to do a build where I was just doing black rubber, and I decided to do Sharpie with the black rubber just to make it quicker because I was kind of in a bind at this point. I built most of this car in basically a day because the Falcon took a lot longer than I thought it would. So I primered everything. I'm not going to name the primer because I'm not super happy with it. I'm going to go back to trying Autoborn and see if I can do it without getting dry tip on my airbrush. But once everything was primered, I gave it all a coat of grimy black to get things started on a base. I drilled out the exhaust pipe on the under engine part that came with this set. It was a really well thought out set. My only concern, if there was one, was that it was kind of weird that there were pipes coming out the back of the chassis when there was an exhaust pipe coming down here. But they look really, really cool, so I left them. This is another one of those times when I definitely overthought things. I wanted to have yellow shocks on this thing, and as you'll see by the end of it all, it doesn't really matter, and I was trying to be subtle. But now you know that I went through the trouble of putting yellow shock. These pieces printed beautifully. Also, I used very minimal supports and they printed very well. And if you're curious, I use an Anycubic Photon with eSun black standard resin. I dry brushed on a little black and steel from MSP to to give the undercarriage some definition, and ended up going with a blue base on it because, again, it didn't really matter because by the time it was done, it was all muddy. But I dry accented with some Tamiya weathering powders to get the springs to stand out some. Did a black wash over everything to give a little texture. This is actually the AK Interactive panel liner for gray and blue camouflage, but it lays really well as an overall black wash too. I used some Typhus Corrosion to add some texture to the support beams, make this thing look like it was a backyard built monster truck. I didn't add any rust on top of it. I ended up using just the corrosion because I like the texture on it. I thought it'd be really clever and add some Green Stuff World verdigris paint to the radiator, but it turns out you really can't see it through the hole in the body. But again, you know it's there. It's a secret we share together. All right, then it was time for the interior. The only thing that really needed modifying with this set was just taking the base off of the interior so that the new chassis fits snugly. I gave it the same primer treatment and then went with light gray as the base, and I took a page out of Jim Silva's book and gave it red seats. And I don't know why this car has 3 scooters in the back for a 2-seater, but maybe it's so if they meet up with friends on the way, they can all scoot together. I decided since I was having fun here, I would do the Flying Valiant logo colors as the 3 scooters. Again, this was just such a nice palette cleanser. I was doing wet on wet. I was just having fun here, not taking this one too seriously. I mean, I took the challenge seriously, but this is a fun build, so I was having fun with it. I was so excited about the Stuart Simple mirror paint, and then realizing there was almost nothing to put it on, I was like finding things, and I found the seatbelt buckles and a little bit of accents for the scooters, even though you can't see it once the car's together. And I went over everything in the car with a satin varnish to seal it up, and then went over it with the panel liner, again, to give it some definition on the inside, because this is going to be a dirty car. And you might be asking yourself, why would he have scooters inside of a monster truck? And I would be asking you, why are you asking about scooters in a Honda City that has been made into a monster truck? It's just for fun. And then it was time for the body. I kept things pretty stock on the body. I used this AK Interactive Deep Sky Blue to color the car. It was a color that I saw and I thought, oh, this looks kind of like my Valiant's colors. And it is actually pretty close. Again, I used the black Sharpie to simulate weather stripping, and that was 1 for speed, and 2, again, because I was just having fun and I hadn't done that before and I wanted to see how it looked. And I like how the Sharpie has that kind of deepish purple look that's almost like a rubber gasket. It's also quite easy to clean up with a little paint thinner. And because everything underneath it was acrylic, it really didn't mess with the paint underneath. Before I got too much farther into it, I wanted to do the decals, and again, I just used decals that I had lying around from previous builds. These are JC Auto Parts decals from my Demolition Derby build, and the Flying Valiant decals are also from the Demolition Derby build. So I figured this would be a sister car to the Demo Derby wagon. And my buddy JC really likes these little tiny cars. He's a huge Ford Festiva guy, and until I find a Ford Festiva I can make into a monster truck. He also loves monster trucks. This will have to do. Did a little general lead nod with the Flying Valiant decals on the roof, and I had some decals. I think these were from Second Chance Redline, the Firestone and the sponsor logo ones. Sealed it up with a matte clear and then put it all together to do the final detailing. Used some existing license plates. I went with the Florida Gators on the front and a Florida license plate from the 80s on the back, because I figured this is a great classic 80s redneck project and definitely something you would see in Florida. Another thing about this design is it's a really good 3D printed design. Very simple, very easy to print, but you can't attach the engine until you seal the car down. But amazing forethought in this design, because it's built to have the posts used. It fits over the posts, so you don't have to drill anything, and oh man, it was so nice. It is missing some drive shafts, so I just added some with some styrene. It's just, something that you could use just about anything to make the drive shafts. Coffee stirrers would work just fine. I did use some MSP silver for the headlights, and then once that was dried, went over the entire car with the panel liner again to give it some definition. Again, overthinking this a bit, because as it turns out, well, you'll see. Once the drive shafts were set up, I went over them with some oily black oyster white headlights as usual, and the tester's clear amber and clear red for the taillights. I used a little engine grime from AK Interactive to get some greasy spots on the axles. Can't really see it on the camera, but it's there, and it adds a little bit of shine in spots. I found this Vallejo brown wash on Amazon. I have some price alerts set up on Amazon through a website called Camel. It's really hard to say fast. Camel. Anyway, I have a lot of paint supplies and stuff in there. This wash came out as $2.76, shipping included. I don't know what happened or why I got so lucky, but I was able to get it for $2.76, and I will take that any day of the week. And it's just a nice brown wash, kind of set the tone for what's coming next, which is these. This is an Ammo MIG damp soils set that I found and picked up, again through a price alert, and I was eager to try this because I wanted to see what the difference was between regular dirt effects and a damp effect, and I figured it was just shiny, and I was kind of right. Anyway, I used 2 of the pieces from this set. The first was the mud splattering, and I used a soft brush and a toothpick to do lots of mud splattering and just propped it up and went around, and as you can see, it did a pretty good job of simulating rust splatter. Now, this is where creative license kicks in, because as a native Floridian, I know what a real mudding vehicle looks like when it's done, and it does not look anywhere near as clean as what I ended up doing. But that's because they're usually so caked in mud you can't tell what the vehicle is. But again, we're going to take some creative license and let the actual car show through. I didn't like how the wash was initially sticking to the green light tires, so I went over them with some Deco Art Ultra Matte varnish to give some tooth to the tires without scuffing them up. Then I used the textured mud effects to get in between the treads of the tires and wiped it off with my thumb, and then did some splatter effects with the toothpicks on the side of the tires. As I went, I made sure to go over the windshield every now and then with a Q-tip to make it look like the windshield wipers had been working. This is a good way to easily simulate windshield wiper cleaning while still maintaining some streaks that would be left by actual windshield wipers. Then came the fun stuff, moist ground. Made sure to go over everything with a stippling brush and really work this. It's a really heavily textured gloss paint, and work it into all of the wheel wells and the undercarriage. And again, this is where I kind of realized, oh yeah, I probably could have gotten away with not painting the underside of this thing at all, but we know it's there. Plus, I'd rather be over detailed than under detailed, even on a fun palette cleanser project like this one. Once I'd done the undercarriage of the car, I went over the tires again with the thick mud, so I blended into the splatter mud effect. They're both oil-based, which is nice because the oil base reacts well and blends well with each other. And then once everything started settling in, I went over with my thumb to clean off the treads to make it look like the outer parts of the treads have been cleaned from running along tarmac. The spear-type attachments for the wheels pretty much mandated that I was going to end up with a fixed wheel car, but I'm okay with that. I prefer to have my wheels fixed so these cars don't roll off the shelves, which happens a lot to my regular stock vehicles, so I'm more than happy to make sure my wheels don't spin very much. I did drill out the back of the green lights slightly so they would fit cleanly over the posts that were on this printed chassis, and just super glued them down. And then it was time for the decal and the final number. Off to a whirlwind photo shoot where I got the photos in to Devil's Decals Diecast with just under an hour to spare. So again, let's take a look at where we started. The ever-present 1985 Honda City Turbo. I feel like this is the one I see the most between this and the GoPro cars. It's just about everywhere I go that has diecasts. And I ended up picking up 3 or 4 of them because I figured it was going to be a real hot ticket item. Not because I wanted to resell them or anything, I just genuinely thought it was a cool car. But anyway, I took this one and turned it into the Mighty Mite. And I gotta say, thanks Jamie for hosting this. Devil's Decals Diecast had a really great idea, and it was so much fun to participate in it. And I had a blast. This was exactly the kind of build I needed to follow up the 3 Blind Mice build. And oh man, I was making it up as I went and just having a blast the whole time. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It is available for sale. I don't know why you'd want to buy it, but you can if you want. If not, I'm more than happy to have this one warm my shelf. I'm really happy with how it turned out. What do you think? What was your favorite monster truck? I used to watch these things every Sunday, it seemed. They were on in the afternoons. Which monster truck was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, like I said, all my cars are for sale if they aren't already marked otherwise. So you can buy one or you can order a commission. Leave me a comment and I'll get in touch with you, or you can email me at flyingvaliant@gmail.com. As you saw at the beginning, I've got a couple of presenting patrons at the Bandit level, but I also want to thank my Rockford level sponsors, Mid-Island Custom Diecast. Thank you, Evan. He has a great YouTube channel. Please check him out. The amazing Carolyn, my wonderful wife, and the best math tutor Zoom has ever seen. So if you need a math tutor for a 6th through 12th grader, please let me know. And again, my Douglas level patrons, the Drew Rants and Raves podcast, Jordan Kleinhenn, and Curtis Crafts on YouTube. You can check everybody out in the description below. As you may have seen before, there is Flying Valiant team merch. All kinds of cool stuff. Shirts, stickers, masks. I just got these 2 masks in the mail and I love them. And this amazing shirt. All of this is designed by my brother Justin, and it all goes straight back to him to thank him for doing the amazing graphic design he does for this show. And if you like these videos, please be sure to like, subscribe, tell me what you like about them in the comments, or tell me what you'd like me to do in the comments within reason, and I'll try to get to it. But anyway, it really means so much to read your comments and to see you interacting with this channel, and it's just been so much fun. And this was an absolute blast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. And I've got another challenge coming up with the Beefeaters Diecast Invitational. That one's going to be a lot of fun, so be sure to check that one out. You can see the glamour shots of this car at the end of the video, or you can get more glamour shots over at the Flying Valiant Instagram channel, that's at Flying Valiant, or on the Flying Valiant Facebook page. You can join the Flying Valiant racing team over at flyingvaliant.com or at patreon.com/flyingvaliant, where you get insider access to me, my builds, my process. You can talk to me about your builds, get downloadable content. I'm trying to write more articles for it and even have some exclusive videos coming up, and there's a giveaway every month. So if you've got the means and you want to help me buy the art supplies that I use for this channel, that's where all of that budget comes from, is I use the Patreon money to buy more art supplies and building supplies and tools to show off for y'all. Hopefully it's helpful to you and your hobby. Again, if you like the video, please hit the red subscribe button, leave a like, let me know what you think, and get ready because I got another video coming up in just a few days. As always, I'd like to thank you for coming along with me for the ride. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.